بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وبه نستعين على أمور الدنيا والدين وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد خاتم النبيين وآله وصحبه أجمعين ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. Starting today from Al-Ameen, ayah number 18, where Allah Ta'ala, He says, شهد الله أنه لا إله إلا هو والملائكة وأولو العلم قائما بالقسط لا إله إلا هو العزيز الحكيم إن الدين عند الله الإسلام وما اختلف الذين أوتوا الكتاب إلا من بعد ما جاءهم العلم بغيا بينهم ومن يكفر بآيات الله فإن الله سريع الحساب فإن حاجوك فقل أسلمت وجهي لله ومن اتبعني وقل للذين أوتوا الكتاب والأميين أأسلمتم فإن أسلموا فقد اهتدوا وإن تولوا فإنما عليك البلاغ والله بصير بالعباد إن الذين يكفرون بآيات الله ويقتلون النبيين بغير حق ويقتلون الذين يأمرون بالقسط من الناس فبشرهم بعذاب أليم أولئك الذين حبطت أعمالهم في الدنيا والآخرة وما لهم من ناصرين ألم تر إلى الذين أوتوا نصيبا من الكتاب يدعون إلى كتاب الله ليحكم بينهم ثم يتولى فريق منهم وهم معرضون ذلك بأنهم قالوا لن تمسنا النار إلا أياما معدودات وغرهم في دينهم ما كانوا يفترون فكيف إذا جمعناهم ليوم لا ريب فيه ووفيت كل نفس ما كسبت وهم لا يظلمون. Allah Ta'ala starts out in this section and has mentioned that for the sabab al-nuzul of this first ayah, shahid Allahu annahu la ilaha illahu, that two monks or scholars from amongst the people of the book from Sham, they came to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to come and see if this was the true prophet, the true messenger that they... What's this? No, I don't know what you guys like this line. It's not a train. No, you're fine. I'm talking about the rest of these guys. Like, I don't know what type of seating arrangement they have. Now, so when they came to Medina, they saw that in Medina, it was like what they was prophesied to them in their books. And they said this to each other, that this looks exactly like what we thought, what we were told, that the messenger who was supposed to come at the end of time, this is the land that he's supposed to come in. This is what they said. So then they saw the Prophet ﷺ and they recognized him due to his characteristics. They recognized him due to his characteristics. And they said to him, "Are you Muhammad?" And he said, "Yes." Then they responded back to them again, "Are you Muhammad?" And they said, "Yes." So they said, "We want to ask you about something. And if you tell us what we're going to ask you about, then we will believe in you. We will believe in you." So he told them to ask, and they asked him, "What is the greatest shahada in your book? What is the greatest testimony, shahada, that comes in your book?" So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down this ayah, and they became Muslims. Shahid Allahu annahu la ilaha illahu wal malaika wa ulul ilmi qa'iman bil qist. La ilaha illahu al azizul hakim. And then the ayah that comes, Inna dina inda Allah al-Islam, that the only acceptable deen to Allah is Islam. This ayah was revealed due to the claim of the Jews that their deen was the most superior or the most virtuous of deens. And the claim of the Christians that their deen was the most superior and virtuous of the deens, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala negated those claims and refuted it by saying that inna deena inda Allah al-Islam, that the only acceptable deen with Allah ta'ala, the only thing that Allah will accept from His servants and His creatures is that the people worship Him upon Islam. So beginning with the tafseer of these ayats, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Shahid Allahu annahu la ilaha illahu. Allah here is making known and clarifying to His servants with clear evidences and proof that there is nothing that deserves to be worshipped except for Allah. There is nothing that deserves to be worshipped except for Allah. As the Prophet ﷺ said, Man mata huwa ya'lamu annahu la ilaha illallah dakhala al-jannah. Whoever dies while knowing that there is nothing that deserves to be worshipped except for Allah, he enters into Jannah. We make this clear? That Allah here is showing it that this must be done with knowledge and proofs, because the shahada can't be done except for someone who either saw it with their eyes or they have clear evidence and proof that what they're saying is true. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is testifying first, bearing witness for Himself. Then the angels are bearing witness to what they know and they've seen from Allah, His ability and His might and His grandeur. The angels are bearing witness. And the last group of people that Allah says bears witness is the people who have knowledge, ulul ilm. The people who have knowledge. And this all goes back to verifying and pointing to the fact that a shahada must be done with knowledge. فَعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ وَاسْتَغْفِرْ لِذَنْبِكَ. Right? So know that there is nothing that deserves to be worshipped except for Allah. It cannot be done from a person who is ignorant of the proofs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the proofs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's right to be worshipped alone are proofs that come of two types. There are proofs in His creation, ayat al-kawniyya, the proofs in the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when you see the regulation of the heavens and the earth, how the sun rises and it sets at a perfect time. These are the proofs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through His creation. And then you have the proofs that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He sent with His messengers to bring to mankind. And these are ayat that come in the Quran and in the Sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam. These are proofs and signs of Allah's sole right to be worshipped alone. Wa ulul ilm. So Allah Ta'ala is showing that the people who have knowledge, they confirm and they recognize that Allah Ta'ala deserves to be worshipped alone. And this includes all of the believers. It's not just, in reality, the Allaamah from amongst those who have knowledge of this specifically should be every believer. There should not be a believer that should not be able to list proofs from the creation and proofs from the Quran that Allah alone deserves to be worshipped. And this should be something that is done with yaqeen, bila shak, right? As the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, he mentioned, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa anni Muhammadan Rasulullah. Man yalqa Allah, la yalqa Allahu abdun fihima, la yalqa Allahu abdun fihima bila shakkin. That a person, bila shakkin, that a servant does not meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or kama qala alayhi salatu wassalam, believing in these two statements, that there is nothing that deserves to be worshipped except for Allah, and that I am the messenger of Allah. No servant meets his Lord. Believing in these two without any doubt, except that he will enter into Jannah. So you can't have doubt in this statement. It has to be something that you sincerely believe and have knowledge of. But along with that, there is a showing here of the virtue of having knowledge, a virtue of seeking knowledge. As Allah Ta'ala in the Quran, He never ordered His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam to beg Him for anything ever, an increase of anything ever, not wealth, not status, not authority. Nothing has Allah ever commanded His slave Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to ask him for an increase of anything except for an increase in what? Except for an increase in what? Knowledge. Qul Rabbi zidni ilma. Allah never asked, He never told His servant to ask for anything besides an increase in knowledge. Knowledge, barakallahu feekum, is that which will save you from the ignorance of misguidance. It will save you from going astray and losing that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded us with. Knowledge, it what differentiates between us and the Christians. That if you try to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without knowledge, without knowing, you'll fail and you'll fall into misguidance. As well, this shows that there's nobody who is more noble. There is no one who is more noble or has more honor in this dunya after the prophets than the scholars. There is no one who has more honor, has more esteem, more status in this earth after the prophets than the scholars. And what proves that is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He did not connect to His name any other group or any other type of people in this testification besides the angels, except the people who have knowledge. He didn't say the doctors. He didn't say the lawyers. He didn't say the fighters. He didn't say the rich. He said those who have knowledge, showing that knowledge is a level above everything else. Striving to have knowledge is a level above everything else. يَرْفَعِ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ درجات. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that Allah has raised the believers and those who was given knowledge and levels above everyone else. Above everyone else. So this is important, and I hope inshallah this is an encouragement for us when we see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala honors the people of knowledge, that it will increase in us the himma, the desire to be from amongst the people of knowledge and to take seeking knowledge to be serious. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala honors a thing, then it's a must that we honor that thing as well. That true? Everything that Allah places honor on, it's a must that we also place honor and respect on that. So from that is that we respect the ulama. We respect those people who give their lives for seeking knowledge and trying their best to educate the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions qa'iman bil qist, standing or establishing justice. And this is the situation, the hal of Allah being la ilaha illallah. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's nothing that deserves to be worshipped except for Allah. Along with that, even though nothing in existence deserves to be worshipped except for Allah, Allah is establishing the affairs of mankind with justice. He's establishing the affairs of mankind with justice. And there's a difference to be understood here. There's a difference to be understood here. People sometimes, they call for equality, but they don't understand that equality can become injustice. In reality, that which people should be asking for and seeking is justice, adl, qist. Because equality can be harmful in reality, right? Is that true, young ladies? Equality can be harmful, yes or no? I'm asking you. Should we expect for a woman to be able to lift the same thing that a man has, and if she can't do it, we should call her weak? No, that's not how she was created. She's not equal in that regard. Should we expect for a man to be able to carry a baby for 9 months? No. They're not equal in those regards, right? Should we expect for the woman to go to war and fight? No, they're not equal in those regards. Should we expect the man to give the woman a mahr? Should we expect for the woman to give a man a mahr? No. And the men should start to say, yo, but I want $10,000 for my mahr. The woman will laugh, right? They say, oh, you're crazy. But why do they want to seek equality and other things, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala establishes justice. That He put justice is to put everything in its proper place. Everything has a place, everything has a time, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives everything its proper place and proper time. And as such, we are requested to do the same thing. That we're just, not equal all the time. Because equality can lead to injustice. Equality can lead to injustice because everyone is not created equal. وَلَيْسَ الذَّكَرُ كَالْأُنْثَى. Allah Ta'ala says, and the man is not like the woman. And likewise, the woman is not like the man. There's a difference. So we have to establish justice and treat everyone as Aisha radhiyallahu ta'ala anha, she said, أَمَرَنَا نَبِيُّنَا صلى الله عليه وسلم أَمَرَنَا رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صلى الله عليه وسلم أَن نُنَزِّلَ النَّاسِ فِي مَنْزِلَتِهِمْ. That we put everyone in their proper place. Everyone has a place that they deserve to be placed at and treated as. Tayyib? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even though He's the only one who deserves to be worshipped, He's establishing His creation He's establishing his laws with justice. He's taking care of his creation through justice, managing their affairs through justice. Everything being taken place, and everything being taken place in its proper timing and at the proper place. La ilaha illa huwa. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, again, he repeats this. La ilaha illa huwa, showing us what? The importance of la ilaha illallah. There's nothing more important than la ilaha illallah. That's why the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he sent Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiallahu anhu to Yemen, right, Noura? When he sent Mu'adh ibn Jabal to Yemen, he told him what? إِنَّكَ تَأْتِي قَوْمٍ مِّنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ. Right? فَلْيَكُنْ أَوَّلُ مَا تَدْعُوهُمْ إِلَيْهِ الشَّهَادَةُ أَنْ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. You're going to a people who are from amongst the people of the book. So let the first thing you call them to be La ilaha illallah. وَفِي رِوَايَةٍ الْأُخْرَى أَنْ يُوَحِّدُ اللَّهِ. Let the first thing you call them to be that they single out Allah alone for worship. That is the most important thing ever for us to understand in this life. That nothing or no one deserves to be worshipped except for Allah. And we get to learn that by knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The more we know Allah, the more we will understand that there is nothing that deserves to be worshipped except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that also reminds us that there is nothing that we should be more busy with than that. There's nothing that we should be busy with more than understanding Tawheed. Understanding that there is nothing that deserves to be worshipped except for Allah. That's the most important aspect of our life. If I ask you for a proof for Tawheed, what would you give me? Every Muslim should be able to have on their head, memorized, ready to respond, proofs for the Tawheed of Allah. What would you tell me if I ask you, why should I worship Allah alone? It's a question. No, I need a proof. La ilaha illallah. That you're telling me that, but what's your proof that I should do that?
Allah says that the proof of His signs is like, it's right in front of you.
No, that's not proof. You're paraphrasing. I need a proof. Let's say. That could be a proof. Ayatul Kursi.
Weren't you dead before you were alive?
That's an ayatul kawniyya. Give me a proof from the Quran. Qul huwa Allahu ahad. That's a proof. What else? Allahu samad. Yeah, but give me a clear proof. Because the person can say, yes, Allah is a samad, but I still want to go worship this. Give me a clear proof of Tawheed. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen leads to Tawheed. That's true. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'een, right? So every Muslim,
the 99 names, because no one else could have those. No one else could be all those things at the same time like he is.
That's true, but that's an intellectual proof. Give me a straight proof from the Quran and the Sunnah.
The Shahada in itself.
But what's the ayah? Do you see my point? We should have an ayah or a hadith off the top of our head for everything that we say. We should be able to prove it. Why? Because Muslims are what? Ahlul dalil. Ahlul adillah. We're the people of proof, right? We're the ones that make the claim, Hatu burhanakum in kuntum sadiqeen. Bring your proof. So what if somebody tells us, Hatu burhanakum in kuntum sadiqeen? We tell people this all the time, right? Bring your proof if you're truthful. So if someone asks us that, shouldn't we have proof ready to give them? Or should we have to be, hold on, let me go back to my Quran. No. That's the benefit of being from Ahlul Ilm, from having knowledge.
I thought that the signs were the proof, and the fact that we can't verify the existence is the belief.
No. Allah's existence in his we don't see it, but his signs are so clear that it is evident, yaqeen.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like Allah says, like, I let you to see my signs, but like without being able to like cut and dry proof for a human to see, because if it's cut and dry proof, then where is the belief? Because Allah says that I love the humans more than the angels and the jinn, because they worship me without being able to see me, without being able to hear me, without like all the things like the angels can see, the jinns can see and have.
No, do you have a proof for that? Because there's a big debate amongst the scholars about who is better, Bani Adam or the angels.
But it's Ashraf al-Makhluqat.
Who?
Insan.
This is a big debate amongst the scholars.
I think it's.
So I'm not going to answer about it.
I've always believed.
Some of the people say from amongst mankind there are some that can be better than the angels. Not all of them. But from amongst mankind, there are some that can be better than the angels.
But I thought the angel said to Allah, why are you going to make ends when look at us? We're already doing this. And
So look, the angels never disobey Allah. But from amongst the mankind, there's some that don't stop disobeying Allah.
But they don't have nafs. We have nafs. Right?
It doesn't. The fact of the matter, Allah created everything in His proper way. Allah created them to never disobey Him.
Oh, okay, insan is a khalifa in this earth.
Uh-huh.
Right? So nothing is better in this earth than
In the earth,
Yeah.
but we're talking about creation.
Okay.
So what I'm saying, what I'm asking him is, the statement that he said, does he have a clear proof for it?
Okay.
There's no clear. You see what I'm saying?
No.
There's a big debate amongst the scholars about this issue. So what I'm talking about now is that we have to have proof for what we say. If we make a statement, we have to have proof for that statement, because somebody might check our chin, right, and say, hey, what's your proof for that? And you got to be able to say, well, my proof is qala Allah wa qala Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, my point goes back to, again, we should all be able to list a proof for the tawheed of Allah. When Allah says, min ayati, and Allah Ta'ala says, min ayati, and khalaqa lakum min anfusikum, Allah says, min ayatihi, I'm forgetting this ayat right now. But anyway, the signs and ayats of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are His proofs. The signs that are in His the signs that are in the creation, and as well the signs that are in the Quran and the Sunnah. Really? Okay. Does that make sense?
There's a proof of which is from Quran, and also there's proof from Aql as well, right?
Yeah, there's proof from the existence of the 1 second. So, Bismillah. So the point comes back to, again, is that we have to have a proof for everything that we say and everything that we do. Try it.
So what should we be using if someone asks us? Is it just those verses from the Quran that talk about the oneness of Allah? Is that in itself proof?
Those are proofs in and of itself. Those are proofs.
Because we take the statement as like an automatic truth.
Automatic truth.
Okay.
The speaker is the most, is Allah.
So the proof is the actual ayat itself, and the belief is the fact that we can't prove the ayat.
The ayat is proof because the one who said it is the truth.
So what was the difference between truth and belief? Isn't belief the fact that like you can't, like you could say, well, prove it to me. Well, prove that book is from Allah.
That's another point. But now here goes the thing, right? The proof of the book being from Allah is that there's no Allah, like Allah Ta'ala, He mentions that the proof to the Arabs, number one, was that they know their language, right? And they know that this language, that the way the Quran was put from the beginning to the end, it's impossible to have been done by a human being. The proof is that Allah challenged the Arabs, who were the most eloquent of speakers of their language, from the time of Muhammad ﷺ until our time. And no one can challenge it, not even one ayah. This is the proof in itself. They would have been able to overcome it if it was from a human being.
A better sounding book or something.
Exactly. And no one was able to do anything close to that. And from amongst many other proofs, the way that it's been preserved is a proof in itself. The way that it's been memorized is a proof in itself. the way that there's no inconsistencies in it is a proof in itself. These are all showing the miracles of the Quran. So again, it goes back to, again, the first thing we should call people to be La ilaha illallah. Secondly, Allah Ta'ala says Al-Aziz, meaning that He is almighty in His command and His dominion. There is nothing that could come to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala that is more mighty or more powerful than Him. And He's Hakim, meaning in His statements and His actions, He does everything in a way that is wise and befitting. Then Allah Ta'ala goes on to the next ayah, says, Inna dina inda Allah al-Islam. That the only legislation, laws that Allah is pleased with His servants to worship Him through is through Islam. The only thing that is acceptable to Allah as a deen, as a way of living, as a lifestyle, as a way of trying to get close to Allah is Islam. There's no other way that a person can get close to Allah and submit to the commands of Allah and stay away from His prohibitions except through Islam. That is Islam. To submit yourself to Allah, to stay away from His prohibitions, to fulfill His commandments, to believe in that which His messengers came with, and the characteristics of Allah Ta'ala, and the ba'ath and the jaza, and the resurrection, and the reward, or the punishment that will come after the resurrection. That is belief in Islam. So there's no deen that Allah is pleased with for His servants to worship Him with besides this Islam. So Allah Ta'ala, again, He says, Inna dina inda Allah al-Islam. So if a person asks, especially from amongst the Muslims, we have this issue today, that some of the people from amongst the Muslims, they think that there's some way that's going to get them closer to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala that's not found in Islam. The only way that you're going to get close to Allah and to earn His pleasure is by doing that which He's legislated in this deen of Islam. So all of the paths, in reality, in summary, every path of all the messengers, the previous messengers, all of their ways and their deens, or all of their ways and their legislations was Islam. Regardless of what time it came in, regardless of what place it came in, all of the messengers came with and brought Islam to the people. And the benefits of a deen, people sometimes ask this question, what's the benefit of deen, of a religion? You have some people today who try to say that religion is only to control the masses, right? Yes.
Order.
Part of it is order. Deen has two main benefits. It has a benefit for the soul and a benefit for the heart. The benefit for the soul is that it gives peace and ease to the soul and removes from the soul the false beliefs. It removes from the soul the blemishes and the defects of believing of something that's unseen that might have control over you that doesn't really. So if Allah did not send the deens down, people will eventually do what? Like they do, worship the sun, right? People will worship spirits. People worship jinns because they start to believe in anything that's unseen or they can't touch or they can't fully understand, to believe that that is what has control over them. So Allah sent down the deen of Islam to show the people what really is in control. So the soul becomes at ease when it really knows who is giving order and command. Who is the one that's commanding or taking control of the universe and everything that's in it. No, there's no special, what are those things called? Aliens that created mankind. Because people, they go crazy trying to find these things. And if Allah did not send the deen, the soul will never be at rest, looking for what created me or what's given the laws. So Allah sent the deens with the prophets and messengers to let the soul be at ease, to know Allah is the one who sent it. Allah is the one that's in control. And the people submit through this. As well, the benefit of the deen is that it rectifies the heart. That if it wasn't for the deen, people's hearts and desires will go haywire, will go crazy. They wouldn't know what to submit to. They wouldn't know what's right or wrong, because people will end up doing what instead? Worshiping their desires. Whatever their desires say, if you see the people who have no deen, what do? They act like animals, right? They eat what they want to eat. They do what they want to do, drink whatever it means. They act like animals because they don't have any law and order in their life. So deen, as you said, it came to set right the heart through what? Giving it order. Through giving it order. And making the intention sincerely for Allah. So now we say, if we understand that principle, what deen is for, then we know as Muslims, our job is to follow this deen by doing what? Submitting to the order that Allah has given us. If we don't submit to the order that Allah has given us, then we become like the other people, animals, doing whatever we want to do. There's no such thing for a Muslim to say, I'm going to do me. No such thing a Muslim to say, nobody can control me. There's no such thing that a Muslim can say, I'm going to live my life. A Muslim can't talk like this if he knows the purpose of the deen being sent down. The purpose of the deen is to control your life so that your heart can become right and set in the correct manner. Otherwise, you're like an animal. Otherwise, you become like an animal. One time, Ali radiallahu anhu, he gave a khutbah. And he said, Al-Islam huwa taslim. He said, Islam is taslim, to be submission and peace, right? But taslim huwa al-yaqeen. And taslim huwa al-yaqeen. And that submission and peace is to be certain. Wal-yaqeen huwa tasdeeq. And that certainty is to believe truthfully, to have firm belief. Wat-tasdeeq huwa al-iqrar. And tasdeeq is to have that belief being confirmed in your heart. Wal-iqrar huwa al-ada. And iqrar is to fulfill it. You can't say that you believe in it and you're decided upon that if your actions don't fulfill that. So the iqrar, meaning when you're firm and you know this, your actions are going to show that. وَلَدَاهُ وَالْعَمَلِ. And the fulfillment is to do actions. And that fulfillment is to do what? The fulfillment is to do what?
Actions.
We got to make sure we understand this. The fulfillment is to do what? After all this leads to what? All this Islam leads to us doing what? Actions. So it doesn't just stay in the heart as a belief. It leads us to do actions. إِنَّ الْمُؤْمِنْ أَخَذَ دِينَهُ عَنْ رَبِّهِ. And he said the believer takes his deen from his Rabb. That's important because some people take their deen from what? From their president, from their friends, from their country, from their desires. But the believer, إِنَّ الْمُؤْمِنْ أَخَذَ دِينَهُ مِنْ رَبِّهِ عَنْ رَبِّهِ. The believer takes his deen from his Lord. The one who provides for him, sustains him, created him, right? Takes care of him. The one who knows what is beneficial for him in this dunya. He takes his deen from him. وَلَمْ يَأْخُذُ عَنْ رَأْيِهِ. And he doesn't take it from his own intellect. He doesn't take his deen from what he thinks is good. I think that I should do this. We have people like this, right? That people say, I think it's better if I do this. Well, he said, no, what did Allah say? Allah said, this is better for you, but you say, I said? You said, I believe? Or I want to do? No. Allah knows what's best for us. The word Rabb, again, shows what? That Allah knows what? What's best for us. Correct? What does the word Rabb mean? Huh? What? I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Al-Mun'im, the one who gives you favors, right? What else? Al-Mudabbir, the one who sets your affairs in order, right? Better than you. He sets your affairs in order, so you know better than him. What else? Al-Qayyim, the one who's maintaining your situation. How can you know better than him? What else? Al-Malik, the one who owns you. How can you do with yourself more than what your owner says you can do? What else? Al-Murabbi, the one who puts everything, who helps everything go in its proper form at the proper time, from stage to stage. So Allah again knows what? That what's best for you. What else? As-Sayyid, the one who you go back to for all of your needs and affairs. Correct? The word Rabb is surrounded by these 5 things, fulfilled by these 6 things, right? So you take your deen as such. إِنَّ الْمُؤْمِنَ يَعْرِفُ إِيمَانُهُ فِي عَمَلِهِ. Then he said the believer recognizes his iman. His iman shows forth through what? His actions. His actions. The believer, if he's a believer, his iman will show forward. يُعْرَفُ إِيمَانُهُ فِي عَمَلِهِ. His iman will be shown forth through what? How will his iman be shown forth? Munira. How will your iman be shown? I can't hear you. What? What'd she say? No, that's not what I just said. I said the believer's iman will be known through his actions. Not through what they say. Not through their lip service. But what they do. وَالْكَافِرُ فِي كُفْرِهِ بِإِنْكَارِهِ. And the kafir, his kufr, will be known through what? His rejection. He doesn't want to do nothing. You tell him to pray, he's like, nah, I'm not with that praying stuff. Right? You tell him to fast, I'm not fasting. Tell them to cover up. I'm not covering up. Tell them to, grow. They reject everything that you say comes from the deen. Everything you say comes from the deen, they reject it. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. No, I'm doing me. No, I'm not doing that. Their rejection shows it. That makes sense? أيها الناس دينكم دينكم فإن السيئة فيه خير من الحسنة في غيره. So he says, oh people, your deen, because the evil action done in the deen, or the sin that's committed while you're a Muslim upon deen, is better than a good deed that's done while not being a Muslim. That's a deep statement.
Can you say it again?
He said the sin that is done in, upon the deen, like you did a sin, you made a mistake, is better than the good deed done by a person who's not a Muslim.
Say that one more time.
Hold on. You guys are putting too much importance on that part right there.
No. I completely understand what you're saying, and I think if I'm not...
No, I got you. I'm going to say it again. I'm joking.
I think it's because you're saying it because a Muslim has, like, istighfar and tawbah, and a kafir, like, even if they do something good, it's all
going to become clear once we keep going, though, actually. Right. So, he said that, meaning, like you said, similar to what you're saying, but he's just showing that how important it is for the deen. Don't let go of the deen. Don't act by your opinion.
Yeah.
Don't act by your opinion. If you make a mistake, you can say you can make tawbah, you can make istighfar. But it's better that you can make a mistake and make istighfar and make tawbah than you did something acting by your own opinion. This is what I think is best.
Yeah.
Right?
So that's assuming. So ask questions about what you don't know.
That too, yeah. Ask questions about what you don't know. In the sayya fihi tughfar wa in al-hasana fihi ghayrihi la tuqbal. And he says, indeed the sin that is done, it can be forgiven. The sin that's done while you're being a Muslim, it can be forgiven. But the good deed that is done while not being a Muslim is never accepted.
It doesn't even count.
Doesn't even count. Okay? That's what he's talking about. وَمَا اخْتَلَفَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ إِلَّا. Then he says, وَمَا اخْتَلَفَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ. That those who were given the book, they didn't differ. Meaning the book here is talking about the Torah and the Injil. The book that was given to the Jews and the Christians. The Torah was given to the Jews. The Injil was given to the Christians. As they call it today, like the New and the Old Testament. They never differed in regards to the deen of Islam, except after. إِلَّا مِن بَعْدِ مَا جَاءَهُمُ الْعِلْمُ عِلْمٌ بَغْيًا بَيْنَهُم. They never differed in regards to the reality or the truthfulness and not accept, meaning they didn't accept Islam. They separated from not accepting Islam, and it wasn't because they didn't know. They only did this after they knew the truthfulness of Islam. So this is something that you have to realize about our Christian and Jewish people, right? That they know the truthfulness of Islam for the most part. They're not accepting it, has nothing to do with their ignorance of it. We're talking about the leaders and the ones who have knowledge from amongst them, right? Not your Joe Blow neighbor for the most part, because they might have been fooled by their leaders. But the leaders and the scholars from amongst them, they know it. But they reject it not out of the untruthfulness of it or the falsehood of it. They reject it due to what? بَغْيًا بَيْنَهُمْ. Out of their transgression and their animosity and hatred for the Muslims. They reject it out of what? Seeking leadership and demand and control of the people. Not because they don't believe in it, but they don't want to lose control. And we see this today. They know they're wrong, but they don't want to lose their so-called authority and leadership. So they won't accept it. Yes.
One of the problems that the Christians had with the pagans was because of their belief in multiple gods. And the Christians used to believe that, used to stress that there was only one God. But as of late, they believe in the Trinity now.
And this is what he actually says here too. Is that also this ayat is speaking about that the differences from amongst them, not even their difference between us and them, but their differences between them is after knowledge, because they disagree on so many different things. They disagree whether Jesus is God. They disagree whether he's the one of three. They disagree whether he's the son of Mary. All these different things they disagree with in themselves. But then the Shaykh, he brings a very beautiful point also. That the same way that the Jews and the Christians differed after knowledge came to them, right? And they killed each other and fought each other over their deen. The same way, subhanAllah, the Muslims have fallen into the same thing. And he says, sadly, the Muslims have fallen into the same thing that the Jews and the Christians have fallen into. That after the truthfulness have come to us, now the people disagree and they want to fight and kill each other, so-called based on the deen, right? But the reality is there's only one deen. There's no 5, 10, 15 Islams. So what's incumbent upon us is to return our deen back the way that it was in the time of the Prophet ﷺ and his companions. Everything that came after that is not from Islam. Everything that came after that, people want to introduce and say, I'm this type of Muslim, I'm this type of Muslim, and they start to fight over this, it's not from Islam. It's not from Islam. The only way that we can win again and become superior again in the lands, superior again on this earth, is through justice and returning our deen back to the Islam that the Prophet ﷺ practiced and his companions. And we can only do this if people stop seeking leadership in the land. The same issue that the Jews and the Christians have. Once people are able to fight their own desires and their own arrogance and say, I don't need leadership, I just want the truth. Let's call to the truth. We don't need names, we don't need groups or parties, we need the truth. What the Messenger ﷺ and his companions were upon. That's the only way that we'll be secure again in our deen. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And that's a very important point, that we need to return back to that Islam. Not seeking, and not doing it sincerely for the sake of Allah. Not trying to be the leader, not trying to be the boss, not trying to have authority in the land, but just a call to Islam, seeking our reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes.
So, question. So, like you said about the problems that we have now, that's dividing us. How could you be able to keep, I know it's a simple answer, but I mean, how can we keep us together, human, or grounded, when you got different fits that don't coincide with one another? Like you said earlier, you got different schools of thought. So you got one school saying that you got to use this fiqh, and you got this school saying that you got to use this fiqh, or whatever. But how could you say that if you got supporting scholars as co-signing this school of thought, or they say that they're following the Prophet, but then you hear them say something about Ali or something in those terms?
Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran, فَإِنْ فِي شَيْءٍ فَرُدُّوهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. Allah says, if you differ over anything, return it back to Allah and His Messenger. People have to realize that the cure for the difference, the cure for the dispute, is to return back to the pure Sunnah of the Messenger ﷺ and return back to the Quran. If you make your judge anything besides those two things, then everyone's going to have their opinion in this. It goes back to, again, don't worship your opinion. Take your deen from your Rabb, not from your opinions. So when people are able to purify themselves and their hearts from this desire of leadership or the desire to be right, instead of seeking the truth, then and only then can we return back to one ummah. But until then, everyone has what I think is better, that mentality, or what I feel is better, then it's not going to be a cure until people strip their intentions away from these other desires except to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then Allah Ta'ala says, وَمَنْ يَكْفُرْ بِآيَاتِهِ بِآيَاتِ اللَّهِ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ سَرِيعُ الْحِسَابِ. That whoever disbelieves in the signs of Allah, and these are the signs of Allah, His Quran, His signs in the creation, whoever disbelieves in any of them, then Allah is the one who is quick in retribution upon those who disbelieve. Also, this is a clear proof that whoever disbelieves in the ayahs of Allah, this is a clear proof showing the obligation of sticking to the book of Allah and the Sunnah of His Messenger. That you cannot separate yourself from these two pinnacle pillars of Islam. Right? Then Allah Ta'ala says a nice ayah. He says, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala says, فَإِنْ حَاجُّوكَ فَقُلْ أَسْلَمْتُ وَجْهِيَ لِلَّهِ وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَنِ. Allah Ta'ala says, and if they try to debate with you, as you know, sometimes people, they want to debate, right? If they try to debate with you, they want to argue with you, dispute with you, say, listen, that's cool. You want to argue? You want to beef? I submit to Allah. and those who follow me. That's what I'm about. If you want to argue about this, I don't have no argument for you. Why? There's no benefit in arguing with a person once the clear proofs have already been mentioned to them. The clear proof is there. I'm wasting my time arguing with you. I could be doing something else. The clear proof is there. Now, if some of the proof is like, if it's an issue that's not so clear and a person is trying to find the truth, then we talk with them. But for the mere intent of arguing and debating, we have no time for them. I've submitted to Allah. If you haven't, that's something between you. Listen, I don't have time for that. That's clear. Clear as the sun in the sky that Allah is the only one who deserves to be worshipped. If you don't accept that, I'm not going to argue with you for the mere reason of arguing.
Is this message for the Al-Imraan?
This message is speaking to, at first it said it could be speaking to the Christians, or it was speaking to the people of Najran, the Jews of Medina, or it was speaking to the people of Najran. So I submit my face, meaning the face, right? Even though it's something about the face is what, a part of you, right? It means the whole body. It means your whole everything. It doesn't mean that, just the face has submitted. It means, even though it's talking about a piece or a part of the body, it's talking about the whole everything. And the face, is the most noble part of a person's body. And even, subhanAllah, once the face is submitted to something, the whole body goes with it as well. So saying, Aslamtu wajhi, I've submitted my face to this, saying that what? My whole everything is for Islam. And as well, those who follow me. As well, those who follow me. وَقُلِ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ وَالْأُمِّيِّينَ أَأَسْلَمْتُمْ. Then say to the people who were given the books, meaning who? The Jews and the Christians. وَالْأُمِّيِّينَ, Ummiyin is referring to the Arabs because they never received a book before. They never had a book sent to them before, so they were not the people of the book. They were people who did not receive a book. Here, you two move over. Zahira and Nora, move over. Move over, move over. Move over here, move over, man, move over. Zahira, sit here. Sit here, sit here. Who else is this right here? Who are you talking to? No, not you, Nora. Who are you talking to? Who is that? Who? Munir, move over. Come sit right here next to Miss Asma, please. Zahira, sit right here in front of this young lady. طيب. كل الذين أوتوا الكتاب والأميين أسلمت. Who are the people of the book? Who are the people of the book?
Jews
and Christians.
Jews and the Christians. Who are the Ummiyin? Why?
No book for them.
They were never given a book before. طيب. Say, have you submitted? This is a statement of, not a question, reality. It's really a question of aslimu, submit. Say this to the Christian, submit. Right? This is what you need to do. Submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَإِنْ أَسْلَمُوا فَقَدْ اهْتَدَوْا. And if they've submitted, if they submit themselves, then and only then will they have been guided. Then and only then will they have won. So here goes a question I'm going to ask you, right? When you see your Christian friends and, Jewish friends, or you see these different governments, and you think that they're winning, right? What did Allah say? فَإِنْ أَسْلَمُوا فَقَدْ اهْتَدَوْا. If they submit, then they would have been guided. But if they haven't submitted, they're not winning, even though they think they are. Don't be fooled by the smoke screen. Just because they look like they might be winning, right, doesn't mean they are. Allah has not guided them if they're not upon Islam. وَإِن تَوَلَّوْا, mean if they turn away from Islam, they turn away from accepting the truth, they turn away from following your deen, that won't harm you. You call them to Islam and they don't accept, it won't harm you. فَإِنَّمَا عَلَيْكَ الْبَلَاغِ. You've only been told to call. You've only been told to give the message. You're not in control of who's going to accept it. And Allah is telling you what? That فَإِنَّمَا عَلَيْكَ الْبَلَاغِ. Don't kill yourself. Don't become sad because they didn't accept. It's not on you to make them accept. It's not on you. So, it was mentioned that the Prophet ﷺ, he recited this ayah to the people of the book, to the Jews and the Christians. And he said to them, we have submitted. We have submitted. Then he said to the Jewish people, do you تشهدون أن عيسى كلمة الله وعبده? Do you testify that Isa is the statement of Allah, the word of Allah and his slave? Said this to the Jews. And they said, and his messenger, they said, Ma'ad Allah, of course not, impossible. May Allah protect us from ever saying that. That's what the Jews said, right? And he said to the Christians, do you testify that Isa is the slave of Allah and his messenger? And they said, Ma'ad Allah yakuna Isa abdan. They said, may Allah protect that Isa ever be considered a slave. And then Allah Ta'ala, وَذَلِكَ قَوْلُهُ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ, and that is why Allah Ta'ala said, وَإِن تَوَلَّوْا, if they turn away after you've given them proof, فَإِنَّمَا عَلَيْكَ الْبَلَاغُ, don't worry about it. All you have to do is tell them. If they accept or they don't accept, their end punishment is going to be on them. Then Allah Ta'ala said, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَكْفُرُونَ بِآيَاتِ اللَّهِ, those who disbelieve in the signs of Allah, in the Quran, and the coming of the Messenger Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, amongst the Jews and the Christians and other than them. And we have to understand that even though it's talking about the Jews and the Christians, there's a principle in Tafseer where the principle goes that the thing to take from, right? That which you take from the ayah is not just who was revealed in regards to, oh, that was about the Jews and the Christians. That's not about us. No, it's about anyone who fits that description. Even though it was revealed about this specific people, it's about anyone who fits that description. Does that make sense? إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَكْفُرُونَ بِآيَاتِ اللَّهِ وَيَقْتُلُونَ النَّبِيِّينَ بِغَيْرِ حَقٍّ, and they killed the prophets without any right. The prophets didn't do any sin, didn't commit any injustice, and they killed them. Right? وَيَقْتُلُونَ الَّذِينَ يَأْمُرُونَ بِالْقِسْطِ, and they kill those who order the people to do good.
أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
So Allah Ta'ala, he mentions about these people who killed the prophets and the messengers, and they killed those who called to that which is good and forbade that which is evil. That's what the qist means here. And they killed those who ordered to the qist, to justice, meaning do the right thing. And we see that happen. Maybe not killing, but how many times a person tells you to do that which is good and people want to fight him, or they want to talk bad to them, right? You might not kill him, but this again shows that, this has been enough that people still today, they want to kill the people who bring them the good news and tell them, listen, ya akhi, listen, my sister, don't do that. Fear Allah. You want to talk bad about him, want to beat him up. Oh, that dirty, stinking imam, right? Why is he always in our business? If I was a little bit taller and a little bit stronger, right? Or we should jump him one day, right? Or if there's a, type of things people might think about. It's reality. They want to kill the person that's telling them to do the right thing. And the person that's telling them to do the wrong thing, they befriend them. Say, oh, that's my buddy, that's my boy, that's my BFF, right? But the one who wants to tell them to do the right thing, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. So Allah says about those type of people who kill those type of people, the good people, فَبَشِّرْهُمْ بِعَذَابٍ أَلِيمٍ. Let them know of a punishment that is severe. It was said that the Jewish people one day Some people got up and advised them. And in the beginning of the day, they killed 34 prophets. One day, killed 34 prophets, the Jews. Then, at the latter part of the day, another group of about 100 and some odd people got up to advise, and they killed them too. All in one day. Well, who's the most famous of the prophets that we know that people hear a lot speak about that were killed?
Say again, sorry.
Name like 2 prophets. MashaAllah, Zakaria and Yahya. Zakaria and Yahya were 2 prophets that were killed. That we know their name of. Other prophets we don't know the name of that were killed. طيب. Then Allah Ta'ala says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَكْفُرُونَ بِآيَاتِ اللَّهِ وَمَا لَهُم مِّنْ Allah Ta'ala goes on and says, أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ حَبِطَتْ أَعْمَالُهُمْ فِي الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ They are those who their actions will be nullified in the dunya and the akhirah. Their actions will be wiped out. Their actions in the dunya won't look like this nice and good actions. They'll be, and this happened to the Jews. You'll see that many times the Jews, because of their actions and their ways, Allah humiliates them, right? Destroys them. Lets them be taken captive. Let them be destroyed. Let their wealth be taken as, war booty. But the same thing is happening to the Muslims. Because we're following by their way. The same punishment that Allah has given to the Jews, similar punishment is descending upon the Muslims. Because we're acting just the same way. And Allah Ta'ala says, أَلَمْ تَرَ إِلَى الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا نَصِيبًا مِنَ الْكِتَابِ يُدْعَوْنَ إِلَى كِتَابِ اللَّهِ Have you not seen those who were given a portion of the book, meaning the Jews, talking about the Torah, and يُدْعَوْنَ إِلَى كِتَابِ اللَّهِ being called to the book of Allah, لِيَحْكُمَ بَيْنَهُمْ ثُمَّ يَتَوَلَّى فَرِيقٌ مِّنْهُمْ وَهُمْ مُعْرِضُونَ So Allah is calling them for judgment. And this comes in regards to a story that happened during the time of the Prophet ﷺ. The story can be found in Sahih of Imam al-Bukhari, where the Jews came to the Prophet ﷺ for judgment. The Prophet said, you guys have the Torah. So let's bring the Torah and, judge to the Torah. They were asking about 2 married people who committed zina. What's the ruling on 2 married people who committed zina? So they tried to hide it and act like that the ruling was not that they should be stoned to death. That they should be stoned to death. So they tried to hide it like that's not the ruling. So the Prophet ﷺ called somebody else that was able to read their book, and he read it, and it said in their book in front of them that the ruling of the 2 married people who commit zina is that they should be stoned to death. And if the woman is pregnant, she should be waiting until the baby, she has the baby and stuff, and then she should be stoned to death. So they found that same rule in their book. They didn't want to agree on it. They try to act like it wasn't there, and they try to turn away but act like they disbelieved it. Then lastly, we want to pay attention to Allah Ta'ala says, ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّهُمْ قَالُوا لَن تَمَسَّنَا النَّارُ إِلَّا أَيَّامًا مَعْدُودَاتٍ وَغَرَّهُمْ فِي دِينِهِمْ مَا كَانُوا يَفْتَرُونَ Allah Ta'ala, He says, the reason that they turn away and they decide not to listen to the book of Allah. Pay attention to this, you people. The reason that they turn away and they try not to listen, they act like they don't want to listen to the book of Allah, is because they say that the fire won't touch them except for a couple days. The fire won't touch them except for a couple days. And they say those couple days that are 40 days that they worship the Ijl, right? They say it's just 40 days. And this is what they believe. Also, they believe and they make up this lie that Allah Ta'ala promised Yaqub, who was the father of the Bani Israel, right? They say that Allah promised Yaqub that he won't punish his progeny except a little bit. It's a lie. That's what they say though. That Yaqub had a promise that Allah won't punish his people except for a little bit. So the point behind this is that the Jews think they can do sins and commit acts of disobedience because they feel that they're not going to be punished for it, except a little bit in their eyesight. And we ask Allah to save us from the fire, even smelling it. We don't even want to smell Jahannam. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for Jannah. فَمَنْ زُحْزِحَ عَنِ النَّارِ وَأُدْخِلَ الْجَنَّةَ فَقَدْ فَازَ Whoever is removed from the fire and entered into Jannah, that is the one who is successful. But now we say that the Muslims imitate this. Don't you see that? Don't you see that Asma? The Muslims imitate that belief? That you have Muslims that say, as the Sheikh he says here, that you have Muslims that say, because I'm a Muslim, right? And they say that there's some Muslims that do the things that they're prohibited from doing. It's haram on them. There's some Muslims that don't do the things they're supposed to do. The obligations on them. But they feel that because they're a Muslim, right? Just because they say they're a Muslim, and they hope that for some shafa'at, that somebody's going to help them get out the fire, right? If we go to the fire, you know, you hear him tell about, man, inshallah, maybe somebody's going to know me. Or maybe the Prophet ﷺ is going to save me from the fire. Or they hope for some kafarat, that, you know, some things Allah that they do is going to wipe out the evil that they're doing, instead of just striving to be good. And they commit major sins. And they say that, okay, even if we do touch the fire, I won't stay there forever. What type of thought process is that? That I'm a Muslim, so at least I won't stay in the fire forever. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says what? بَلَا مَنْ كَسَبَ السَّيِّئَةُ وَحَاطَ بِهِ خَطِيئَتُهُ فَأُولَٰئِكَ أَصْحَابُ النَّارِ هُمْ فِيهَا خَالِدُونَ. Allah says whoever he commits so much sins, he's not making tawbah, and he even has some shirk mixed up in it. It doesn't matter if he says he's a Muslim and he's committed shirk. And his sins surround him. He's committed so much sins that everything that he does is a sin. He's made his own desires to be his God. He worships his desires. Whatever his desire says to do, he does them. He's committed so many sins. There's no good coming to him. On Yom Kippur, he doesn't come with no good. Just sins. This person's going to be in the fire forever. Regardless if he claims to be a Muslim or not. Regardless if he claims to be a Muslim or not. So the reality is that a person should be striving to do as much acts of obedience, to stay far away from the sins, because that's the one that Allah Ta'ala has promised his forgiveness for. The one who is trying, but might make a slip up here and there. Not the one who just doesn't care and says, yeah, I don't care, whatever. I'm going to do me. Not that person. But the one that Allah has promised, or, you know, there's a hope for forgiveness for, is the one who's trying, but they make some mistakes. Not the one who's just arrogant. He's arrogant, stubborn. I'm going to do me. Can't nobody tell me what to do. He's made himself Allah in his own eyes. He's worshiping himself. This person doesn't have this same type of thing. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make our hearts not like the Jewish people. And to make our hearts people who are afraid of the punishment of Allah. Afraid of the anger of Allah. We don't want it for even a second. We don't want it to touch us, not even a second. We don't have any promise that we're going to be taken out of there. So we have to act like we don't have that promise. Yes.
Question. Would this concept also fall in the category of the speed that a person will go across his sirat?
Yes and no. This is specific. Yes and no. The speed that a person crosses the sirat, it does have to do a lot with how they act in this dunya. If the person is walking fast towards good in this dunya, they're going to walk fast across the sirat. If they're slipping and falling, they're going to slip and fall off the sirat. The sirat in that life is a reflection of your sirat that you walk in this life. Now, then Allah Ta'ala says, فَكَيْفَ إِذَا جَمَعْنَاهُمْ لِيَوْمٍ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ وَوُفِّيَتْ كُلُّ نَفْسٍ مَا كَسَبَتْ وَهُمْ لَا يُظْلَمُونَ. Allah says, so how will this situation be when we gather all of them, all of the people, so that we may reward them or punish them? لِيَوْمٍ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ, on a day that there's no doubt about that day. وَوُفِّيَتْ كُلُّ نَفْسٍ بِمَا كَسَبَتْ وَهُمْ لَا يُظْلَمُونَ. And every person will be given in full what they used to do, or their punishment, or their reward. And nobody will be treated unjustly. If a person deserved punishment, they're going to get it in full. If a person deserved to be forgiven or have good deeds, and they will be paid in full for those good deeds. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not do injustice to anyone. Allah ta'ala will not do injustice to anyone. هذا وصلى الله عليه وسلم سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك اللهم اجعلنا من الذين يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه اللهم إنا نسألك الجنة وما قرب إليها من قول وعمل ونعوذ بك من النار وما قرب إليها من قول وعمل اللهم إنا أسألك علما نافعا اللهم أرنا حقا حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وخاتم النبيين وآله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
جزاك الله.